Well, it looks like we're live now, right? Yes. Oh, we're over here on the phone and everything. Hello, everybody. Welcome for joining us. Today, we're doing it a little bit different. We are going from the forum to our main page. Everybody's using Zoom at the same time, so it looks like there were a little bit of technical difficulties, but thank you, Casey. You made it work. Tonight is our second roundtable conversations night. And like we told you last week, this week was going to be amazing. We were pretty excited to tell you that, oh my God, it's going to be amazing. You can miss it. And here's our amazing guest, Dr. Kendra Lowe, and the author of Wake Up, Kick Ass, Repeat. Many of you have read it. It's an amazing book. So tonight we're going to have an opportunity to talk about the book, to how we can actually relate the book to what is going on now. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that we can actually utilize from this book to what is going on right now. But we're gonna leave that up to you, Doctor, so you can talk to us about that. And I guess I forgot to introduce myself. I think many of you know me, Berenice Castillo. I am the CEO and founder of MSAN. Casey, our amazing VP, is with us tonight as well. And we're gonna start the conversations right away, Doctor. So I'm gonna let you introduce yourself, the way our audience get to know you a little bit more, and then we'll get deep into this.
First of all, I want to thank you guys for inviting me to do this tonight, to be here. I've been excited all week long to talk to y'all, and any chance I get to talk to spouses and talk to an audience at large about my research and just my passion, I get really excited about it. So this is a privilege to be here tonight with you guys, and please ask lots of questions. I hope that you all feel comfortable to do that. I'd love to answer as many as we can tonight in our time that we have together. So I will give you just a little bit of background of me. I was active duty for 6 years. My husband's still active duty. I think, what is he? He's 19 years next month. So I transitioned to the role of a military spouse after 6 years active duty. And really what prompted me to do a lot of the research, some of it that we'll talk about tonight, is just experiencing that stress from a different perspective when I transitioned from being active duty. And I really wasn't aware the sheer amount of stress that spouses felt. I was lucky as an active duty member in many ways that when I PCS'd with my husband when we were joint spouse, you had those ready-made friendships and those ready-made unit and social network. And when that was no longer available, it was harder to reach out and harder to make those connections every time we moved. And I really started to experience a lot of stress associated with it. Had the opportunity in several different programs that I was involved with to research military spouse stress because I wanted to understand it better. I really wanted to understand, why am I experiencing this stress, and spouses that I'm working with, is it significant, or is it something that we just talk about or don't talk about? And then are there some contributing factors that we could help identify just to help spouses? And so that really fostered over 10 years of research that I've been interviewing and working with spouses, trying to better understand the stress that we experience. And that's what prompted me to start talking about it more. And I wrote some research journals and articles, and many of them are sitting on shelves that not a lot of people read. And so because of that, I really wanted to make it into a format that I could reach more of you all. And that's why really is the premise of the book is I wanted to create a tool for military spouses that they could utilize at home and with a peer network to work through and provide some of those tangible tools. So hopefully reaching as many spouses as I can.
That's wonderful, Doctor. I got to meet you probably around a month ago in one of your presentations here in San Antonio, and that's when I got your book. And it was so amazing to hear all the things that you were talking about, all the findings and your research. So tonight, do you want to share with the spouses that are with us right now, what was the main thing that you were able to say, this is probably one of the biggest things that we need to focus on, that we need to help others with? What was the main thing that it was like the aha moment when you were writing your research?
And it was two, so I hate, and you're asking me to pull out one and I can't, so I'm going to give you two. But
That's even better.
But the first one really is that the sheer significance of the stress that we are under. So I think a lot of us have normalized the stress. It's something that we do, we pick up, we do it again. We function under this blanket of stress, and we don't realize how significant it is. So of that, 27% of the spouses that I interviewed had significant stress levels, and 20% of those had clinically significant. So what does that mean? If that individual were to come into an office and take this measure that I had, it was a tool that we used to assess stress levels, it would warrant immediate clinical intervention. So that was kind of the first aha of this is significant. And we look at that comparatively to civilian population, that's double that of the civilian population. But the other aha of that is many of those spouses were intrigued. They wanted to know their scores. How did I do? And when I sat down and reflected with them, I guarantee you the majority of them that were at those clinically significant levels had no idea their scores were going to be that high. And again, because we've normalized it, because it's just what we do. And so that part of that, talking about that, one of those main findings is having spouses come up afterwards and say, oh my gosh, this is such validation. I'm not the only one. I've had spouses say, I thought it was crazy. I thought I was the only one that was struggling to get out of my house. And you standing here today telling me that 20% of spouses could potentially be struggling to get out of bed, according to my research, that to me knows I'm not alone, knows that there's other spouses out there like me, and that I can find a way to get past this because other spouses have. So that's really one part of it that was, to me, that aha, and what I want to keep talking about over and over again. And the second point being, when I talked about what are some of those contributing factors, what do we think contributes to that stress? So now we're saying we could be at clinical levels of stress. What are some factors? And I wanted to look at deployment length, right? And I wanted to say, can some of that stress be because an active duty member's been gone for 2 years or home for 2 years? Can it be a seasoned spouse? Are they at more clinical levels of stress than a brand new spouse? Is it Air Force, Army, Navy? Is it branch of service? I looked at those variables to try to be able to determine what could be adding to some of this stress. And so the second aha is stress does not discriminate. So what do I mean by that? That all of those variables, there was no significant difference. So that spouse that I interviewed that had been part of the military for 26 years, her stress level was no different than the spouse that just entered the military. And so, and it's showing us, and it's depicting a picture of stress that does not discriminate against any demographic, meaning we're all susceptible to it. It doesn't matter if you're male or female. It doesn't matter if you're a seasoned spouse or a brand new spouse. It doesn't matter if you have 5 kids or you don't have any children. You are still susceptible to those stress levels. And so me talking about that is encouraging people to take off those blinders. And so that's what I call them, as kind of the blinders when it comes to looking at stress. This one should be more stressed out. This spouse should experience more stress than this spouse. Not really. It really is removing those blinders. And when you start to consciously make that choice to remove them, you're going to be more apt to see some of our fellow spouses that are struggling. And so that's really that second aha that I'd like to talk about.
Wow. I think you are addressing, even with just 2 aha moments, you are addressing so many things that we go through on a regular basis, just by the fact of being military spouses. And of course, right now we're throwing COVID-19 on top of it, and the new normal in our homes, homeschooling, spouses at home, and so many different things. We were talking a little bit about it last week, that we are so used to having a routine that we make everything happen. We always have a plan A, B, and C. Right now, we cannot even have a plan because we don't know what's going to happen. So when it comes to stress and all the stuff that you were talking to us right now, I had a conversation this morning with the staff of the second lady, and we were talking about, it came out to the conversation about resiliency and how probably many spouses needed support at the moment because the stuff that we were going through. And one of the things I was talking to them about is during this moment, that we're going on a crisis or something is different, or you're putting a little bit more stress on us than what we are not used to. But this is a time where we need to make a space where we can tell spouses, you can be vulnerable. Because every time that we hear from someone telling us, oh, you're a military spouse, you're so resilient. Oh, you're a military spouse, you're the backbone of the everything. So it comes to a point where all of those words are heavy in our shoulders. They become an expectation. So when you want to have a vulnerable time and say, I'm one of those that I cannot get up from bed this morning, you can't, because it's on your head that you got to be resilient. And you got to have to be the backbone, because if not, your family is not going to be able to make it. So I think that this is one of the reasons why we want you to bring on board Dr. Lowe, because spouses need to know that right now, probably we're not going to have it all together. Probably this is a time where we're going to be one of those that cannot get up from bed, because we know that we have to deal with so much at home, and it's okay with that. So I don't know what you think of that as a military spouse, and also as a doctor and the research that you've done.
You know, I love what you said about the weight of the word resiliency. It is a very heavy word, and I agree with that. And one of the stories that I tell in the book, which I can relate to the most, is when my husband was up in North Carolina, and it was a very tight-knit community. And one thing they often referred to the spouses up there were Spartan wives. And they meant it very kind and endearing, in the sense of what Spartan wives do, right? They go out and they're pretty amazing. They take care of everything pretty much. And it was an analogy that they meant in the kindest terms. But when I reflected on it, it just bothered me, because I said, okay, if we keep referring to all of us as Spartan wives, then at what point am I going to feel comfortable to say, I'm not a Spartan wife? You know, that expectation's there, that I'm looking at my peers, and they're amazing, and all of our spouses are amazing, and we do need to highlight the ability that we do have. However, the other side of it is also saying, building that space, as you said, that you don't have to be a Spartan wife today. You don't have to have it all together today. And I think that's really important. And the more you talk about it, and the more you bring it up with peers, you'll be surprised. I always say, if you sit a whole bunch of people at the table and you tell me, what are you struggling with today? You'd be surprised at the stories you would hear when you ask people to really be vulnerable, when you ask them to really share. And so again, I think it's really important as peers to make that space available. And we can do that with COVID-19. What we're realizing now, I say it's a kind of a blessing. My husband and I were talking about it, that it's happened right now, because look at modern technology and look at what we're able to do with this pandemic. The technology that we have, I mean, even small things like curbside service at grocery stores, that wasn't present when we left for Okinawa 5 years ago. That wasn't a thing. And now, you know, we just picked up and ran with it. So I think capitalizing on that technology that we have is unbelievable. So what can you do? Set up those virtual meetings with friends. You know, who do you typically see? Ask yourself, who do you typically see during the week? Reach out. Say, hey, do you want to get together and have a coffee date in the morning and just check in on each other? Do you want to do, you know, a Friday night, have a cocktail hour together? I think it's really important now to be deliberate about those social connections and building that space. Why? Because as you said, it's going to bring up those conversations of, you know what, I thought I had it all together yesterday, but for some reason today, the floor dropped out from under me, and I don't know why. And then someone, you know, and they can talk you through that and offer that support for you. So I think it's really important to create that space, as you said.
Yeah, that is true. And, you know, I think like I talk to Casey all the time and throughout the day because of MSAN, and we talk to our team constantly. But I often think about of those spouses that, what about those that are brand new to their installation and they didn't have an opportunity to meet their neighbors? What about if we have a brand new spouse that just arrived to a new installation? It's a brand new world, it's a brand new everything, and they have no one to talk to in a completely different place. So we're always having those things in mind in everything that we do. Okay, with us, it becomes kind of normal that we know that our families are away and our neighbors become our family. But what about those new spouses that we're trying to support? Because they're seeing the military, they're starting a journey in something even more complicated than the way that we started it. And this is the reason why we do these things, because most of our audience are brand new spouses. And we want them to know that there's support, and it's okay to not have it all together. It's okay to having one of those mornings that you don't even know what to do. And we're hoping that if you guys are listening to us right now, you're struggling and you need someone, just request a mentor. We'll talk to you more about it towards the end of the chat. But Casey, do you have something else that you want to share? You always have some good stories to share.
No, I was thinking as I was listening to y'all talk, and I have read the entire book a couple times now because I have a reading problem.
In 2 days. Tell them in 2 days.
Yes, I read it the first time in 2 days.
It's an easy read. The one thing I love is that most people do say that, where they're like, I was just going to start the first chapter and I didn't put it down and I just finished it.
You can't put it down. It's so good. It's so captivating. There's questions in there, and you're like really challenging our thought process all at the same time also. So as we were talking about, new spouses and this being so unknown, in part 3 of it, where you're covering perseverance, there's an entire story from an Air Force key spouse, and her name's Kate. Her story is probably the most relatable given the context to kind of what we're going through right now, because there's a part of it where she even says, I'm not okay, or maybe I am okay, and I don't really know. And that part, as you guys were talking, I was like, oh my gosh, this is that whole story in a nutshell.
It is. And I think it's the more we say it and the more we allow ourselves to say it, the more I say it myself. There was a moment that I shared in the book as well, as, when I was struggling PCSing back from Okinawa, and shared with a group of spouses how I was struggling. It's like, well, you're a psychologist, you struggle? And I'm like, of course I do. And again, it's going back to recognizing that anybody can at any point in time. And I do want spouses to see me vulnerable. And that's why I did share a lot of my stories as well, so that people know I've struggled through it as well. And I could write probably 15 more volumes of this book, of interviewing more spouses. And the more I asked them, I had people say, was it hard for them to share their stories? And I'm like, no. I'm like, spouses want to share. They want to say, I've been through this. Learn from what I've gone through. I hope you can. And if not, let me tell you a couple things that helped me. And the more I asked people to share, I had to, not include some, because there were so many spouses that wanted to be part of it. And I think that just comes to the nature of military spouses, is that we're the first ones to jump up and say, pick me, I want to help.
Yeah, I agree. I think when I was a new spouse, and I was a new spouse not really that terribly, it was like 7 years ago, my entire world was shaken when my spouse enlisted, and I had 2 young kids at home, and he was gone for quite a long time, and then he came back, and forced reduction happened all at the same time. So now looking back, I was lost and I wasn't connected, and I didn't have a mentor from MSAN to help guide me through that time. But I kept telling myself, it would get better. It would get better. It sucked. Like like you're confused, you're lost, you're alone. This sucks too. Like being stuck in your house all day, or confined to your yard, or surrounded by little children who really do not speak like an adult. And the only adult conversation you get is, when you're yelling across the house at your spouse to help you do whatever you need help with. But back when I was a new spouse, I could at least walk across the street and say hi to my neighbor, and get a break and walk through a grocery store at some point. We're not doing that now. And I think part of what the fear for us now is that isolation. It's that stuck. It's that almost claustrophobic feeling of being confined to 4 walls of our houses, and tiny children running through it and not knowing which way is up. And I think our community the most needs to hear, it's okay. Like, we're going to be okay at the end of this. We're going to come out stronger together.
Yeah, it's such a great point. And it's the reason that I'm thrilled with what you all are doing, because my main concern when this started happening is, as I talked about, my research shows we could potentially already be at those clinical levels of stress. Well, now we're adding a whole nother layer of stress. And yes, is it across society? Absolutely. But we're adding that to a population, military families and spouses, that are already under stress. So we're adding stress to it. And then we're adding another component of isolation. And so the Blue Star Family Survey just came out in February. And one of the main concerns that spouses spoke out about, and this is February, prior to COVID-19, one of their primary concerns was isolation. So now we're mandating isolation on clinical levels of stress with more stress. And so what does that mean? To me, it's a perfect storm. Meaning we need to be deliberate. What you guys are doing, reaching out, pushing out programs as much as we can, trying to be creative on how we can get these resources out to spouses that are isolated. And the book being one, I was on I've had several groups set up a virtual study of my book. And so they invited me to pop on, and I just loved it. There was one group this week that they had spouses, and they had to do it at an odd time because they had someone in Japan, Hawaii, United States, and 3 other places. And so trying to find that common time zone that I could pop on a meeting, but they've set up the book virtually. And so I think, again, it's getting creative with all our resources and really trying more than ever to connect those. And I do believe that spouses in this moment with where we're at are going to be more receptive to it, right? Because typically we get distracted with life and we're going 150 miles per hour. And this is causing us to slow down a little bit. And maybe then, you know what, I didn't try that. I've been thinking about doing that. So maybe I should take the survey that you guys have up on your website. That's phenomenal. Maybe I should take time to do that. And I think highlighting these things that a lot of organizations are doing to support spouses, being creative to get them to them, is really important right now.
Yeah, that is very true. And talking about isolation and adding more stress to it, another thing that we always consider is the stigma around military spouses that need support because there is a mental illness, or there is an anxiety, or there's depression. I mean, adding all of this and be able to be confined in isolation and everything, I mean, it's causing things to probably get even worse. What is concerning to me is that right now, we're always telling spouses, take care of yourself and make sure that you have time for yourself because our lives are so crazy. But right now, adding all of this and having to do homeschool and having to have a spouse at home, and there's hardly even time to do something for yourself. I'm worried about those that are dealing with anxiety, depression, and they're not taking care of that. First, because of the stigma, because they gotta be resilient no matter what. And also because right now they're not even paying attention to those red flags and signs that it's time for you to take care of yourself. So I do want to address this because there are a lot of resources if there's anyone in that situation. And we're hoping that us talking about it tonight is gonna make them feel comfortable that, you know what, it's okay. And if you're dealing with something beyond stress, look for help. We're here to talk to you, but ask for help. What do you think of that, Doctor?
It's so true. And what I wanted to make sure that I mentioned tonight is I'm highly involved in the community here with clinicians. And so there are several clinicians in the community here that are they typically offer pro bono slots. They're doubling their pro bono slots, and they're offering discount on services, and they're doing teletherapy. So if you haven't heard of teletherapy yet, the National Association of Psychology is now allowing certain leniencies with teletherapy that haven't necessarily been the standard in the past, because we are in such an unknown space right now. So if you are struggling, reach into your community And there are clinicians, again, that have pro bono slots as well as discounted rates right now because they want to help. They want you to reach out to them. So please, I can't say names specifically on here, but I do know that I'm on several pages with clinicians across the United States that are doing these things. So reach out if you need it. And I say this all the time, even if you don't need it, don't think you need it. I think
Just gonna talk
counseling,
to someone.
I think counseling is one of the most amazing experiences because it does teach you more about yourself. You do better understand. And again, in my book, I'm kind of giving you some of those glimpses. But the other part of a clinician is holding you accountable. I do like in the book if it's done with a group of peers, because what does that do? It substitutes that accountability, right? So now they're asking you those questions and asking you to respond if you're comfortable. But I always encourage, well, do you think I should? I think everybody should. It should be, you do a physical check every single year. You should have a mental health check every single year and just see how you're doing, tune it up a little bit. I think it's a great activity, a great annual thing to do for yourself.
Yes. It is a great thing. I mean, I recommend it. I've done it a few times, and it's great because I think as human beings, we're always worried about what are they gonna say about me if I spill the beans. What are they gonna think, that I'm crazy or something? So when you go to someone that you don't really know and you don't feel judged, and you can actually let go of everything and cry if you need to cry and laugh if you need to laugh, or whatever feelings you're going through, I mean, you feel comfortable because you're able to find that safe place where you can actually go and talk about how you feel. So yeah, I really, I've done it. I love it. And every single time that is like, okay, I don't think no one can understand me. I need to talk to someone. And for all of those that are watching us, like Dr. Lowe said, there's a lot of people right now donating their services. There's a lot of people that are trying to help us, not just military, but society as a whole. We have Military One Source. We have as partners also with Corey Weathers, the Life Giver Directory. So there's a lot of resources. And if you need more information, we can help you. We can link. That's why we have our mentors to provide that support. But yeah, it is highly encouraged to do something like that. This is one of those things that is a good way to take care of yourself, even if it's just one time. I mean, at least you went to somebody's office, you dropped all the stuff you had, and then you're gone and you leave it there. So that's the way that I see it.
And that's okay. That's a good thing. I mean, as you said, you can leave it there and walk away, and you can leave it within those walls. And I think that's very comforting to individuals. And MFLAX. So I talk about MFLAX a lot as well. So please, if you don't know what an MFLAC is, they have them. And the great thing about MFLAX is that they don't take notes. So there's not a record. So that's something that often comes up when I'm working with spouses is, what records are taken, or what does this mean? And the great thing about MFLAX is they don't take those record notes. So that's just something to keep in mind if that's a concern of yours as well, because the number one thing that you should be concerned about is getting yourself help if you think you need it, or if you think you need some tools. Throughout, I think everybody at this juncture is searching for tools, right? I think we're all, we know what we should be doing. We know we should be getting 8 hours of sleep. We know we should be exercising. We know we should be mindful. We know we should eat healthy. We know we should be reaching out. But what if I just don't want to do it today? What if I just don't? We all know what those things are that are recommended. But my point is, if you have a hurdle to get to those things that you should be doing, what's that barrier for you right now? And my goal is to help you get over that barrier, or to get you unstuck, because I would argue that most anybody can sit and tell me, these are the 6 things I know I should be doing, but I just didn't do a single one today. And that's okay if you don't do it some days, but what are you going to do tomorrow to remove whatever barrier that was for you to start doing some of those things that you should be doing? Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. It does. And I think that all of the stuff that we're talking about right now, and somebody made the comment right now that we call it embracing the suck. And that is something that you wrote in the book about. So
I love, that's one of my favorite phrases.
yeah, so before we continue, at the end of the shop, we're giving away 5 books. So we will pick 5 random names and we're gonna send you a book. But how do you see embracing the suck? Is it the same way that everyone else sees it as, well, you're going through it, you have to suck it up, buttercup, and you deal with it? Or is there a different way to relate
No,
that phrase?
I think you can define it a lot of different ways. The way that I frame it is that we're all going to go through something like that at some point in our tenure as military spouses. So to me, and again, what I talk about a lot in the book is that life cycle, right? So it's accepting that you're going to have a portion of that life cycle of military spouse where it's going to suck. So to me, it's more accepting that's going to be part of what you go through, but it doesn't have to define your entire experience. So it's not so much you're in the suck right now, get over it and move on. It's more so accepting there will be chunks of time that it will suck. But here's the other part of it. It's a cycle, right? So there's going to be chunks of time that are amazing. You know, that your child walks up to you and just says, Mom, I'm so blessed to be a military child. Let me tell you why. Let me tell you what I'm so proud that Daddy serves our country, and it brings you to tears. So I'm more so focusing on acknowledging that there are going to be those moments that are super tough. And I mean, it's, you ask any spouse and they tell, and again, sitting them at the table and saying, what was your worst experience as a military spouse? And you'd be shocked at what those experiences can be, right? How devastating they can be. But I also would follow it with, what's the best experience you've ever had as a military spouse? And so the embracing the suck is more of accepting there will be moments of time, but it is a cycle, and you will have joyous times. Embrace those times, embrace those thriving times, right? That I talk about as well, because those are going to get you through when you're back in the suck again.
That is true. That is true. Yes.
You know, I think one of the cool parts about the entire book is that it's very growth related. It helps us grow as military spouses within ourselves. And there's, you know, different times where you point out different things. One of my favorite parts of it is where you're talking about the 3 paths of emotion and how those 3 different paths kind of determine our entire, you know, setting and season. And I think that if we could kind of touch on those 3 different types of paths of emotion right now, it'll help us kind of, you know, feel what we're feeling, and how each of those different ways we could look at things could help shape this experience in general for us.
Absolutely. Casey, great question. And one thing, if you take away from this, I call it the ABCs of your emotion. So it's, we have A is your events, B is your thoughts, and C is your behaviors, your actions. You have 0 control over the events in your life normally. There you have some control. I would argue as military spouses, that's even less for us. So again, it's accepting that those events you have very little control over. COVID-19 happens. You have very little control over COVID-19 and the stay-at-home order, right? You can't change that. So then we go to the B, the thoughts. This is where all the work takes place. And this is that self-help tool that I think is really important for everybody right now. And it's our thought patterns, right? So we can have negative thoughts, positive thoughts, or neutral thoughts. And when I talk about this, a lot of people are like, yeah, you know, I have positive thoughts. I tell myself to have a good attitude. I tell myself to do these things. But are you actually telling yourself? So I think it's sitting down and writing, if anything, during your day, a thought journal, writing down the thoughts you're having. I'm scared. Is that a negative thought? It's not a negative thought. That's a factual thought. I'm scared. It can be a neutral thought too. What thoughts are you having? I think most people are surprised at what their underlying thoughts are. I'm mad. I'm angry right now because I have to stay inside. This is unfair. So writing down really what thoughts you're having and then challenging those thoughts, trying to turn them into positive. And so I have a great sheet that I can share as well, share out, but it's really taking those negative thoughts of I'm stuck inside, this is miserable, to positive thoughts. I have an opportunity to connect with my kids when I haven't really in the past because we are going 150 miles per hour. I'm scared. What if I run out of food? I know I have 2 weeks worth of supplies right now. We're going to be okay. And so I think some individuals don't give as much credit to just saying those positive thoughts out loud. They're like, well, I'm saying it. What if I don't really think it? I guarantee you, the more you say those positive thoughts, what you're actually doing is reprogramming your brain. And there are a million studies to show this. If you consciously tell yourself positive things and you say it out loud, it will change the way your brain has those thought patterns. And so that, and then we go to that C part. What's that C? Those are the behaviors, right? So if we're having a lot of negative emotions, negative thoughts, and it's dictating negative emotions and negative behaviors, it's not going to be healthy for us. But if we're transitioning those, if we're trying hard to change those into positive thoughts, and it will increase the likelihood of those positive behaviors. So one thing absolutely that you can walk away and try to do is write down those thoughts that you're having right now and challenge them. Why are you scared? I'm scared because I might not have enough food. Well, let's work through that one. The grocery stores are still open. There's plenty of food. Yeah, it might be an inconvenience. You have to line up at 6 a.m. at HEB to stand, all the way. I was wrapped around to Fuddruckers the other day to get the things I needed. But when I went in, they had everything I needed. So it's challenging those negative thoughts and saying, is this based on fact? Is it true? And the more you work through those and then try to shift it to positive thoughts, I guarantee you that then will change that C portion, those behaviors. You will notice that you're going to be doing those things that I said that you should be doing, and you'll be more apt to do those things.
Yeah, that's very, very true. Sometimes we get, and I think I talked about this last week when we said sometimes we drown in our own glass of water, because it probably is not that bad, but it's our negative thinking. It is our stress. It is all of the emotions that we're having that day that we think is like, okay, we cannot handle this. It's way too much. Or don't give me nothing else because I don't think I can take it because I'm to the max. But kind of like doing that will be great exercise to actually sit down and say, okay, why do I feel this way? Start writing things down.
Even as you said, I can't do this. I can't do anymore. Stopping right there and challenging that thought. Have you ever have I ever been in a harder situation than this? Actually, I have. This is uncomfortable. Have I been in a harder situation? Yes, Kendra, I have. Have you made it through it? I have. It was uncomfortable. It was hard work, but I made it through. So it's challenging again when you write those down and you really look at them and say, what is it really? I'm exhausted right now. I just probably need 5 minutes by myself without anybody bothering me just to take a deep breath. It's not that I can't handle anymore, because you can. It's that I need a break right now. It's that I need 5 minutes to myself. It's that I need a better night's sleep tonight. So really, the more you look at those thoughts and reflect on them, you'll notice that most of them are just repetitive negative thoughts that you're having that you don't even realize you're having, because you are capable of a lot. All of us are. It's just uncomfortable and hard sometimes too.
Yeah. And I think it also is the doing something productive with the time that you have. And I'm going to speak for myself and here in the house. My husband was surprised when he started working from home that I don't turn the TV on all day until it's probably 6 o'clock and everybody's at home and after dinner or something like that. He's like, why is the house so quiet? Is this the way you deal with every day? And I said, yes, because I want to listen to my thoughts. If I have the TV on, I have the music on or something, then I won't be able to actually listen to my thoughts. And probably I'm telling myself, hey, you're going too fast. You got to slow down. And if I numb myself with watching TV or staying even busier by adding more stuff into my routine, then I feel that I'm numbing my real feelings, that I need a break. And sometimes that is something for me to look and say, okay, this is too much. I need to sit down. I got 30 minutes now. What do I want to do? I'm not going to sit on in front of TV and numb my feelings, or not taking a look at myself and say, okay, what is it that I need to work on? So I'd rather probably those 30 minutes and then they'll do meditation, or go and read a book, or try to write a journal, or something that is, to me, like I said, personally, be more productive than just doing something that's just numbing myself and I'm ignoring that it's there.
And I think it's a great point to think about the numbing part, right? So there's a lot of stuff probably going on right now that people are doing to numb those emotions. And so I just would throw it out there as caution that these behaviors that we might form that aren't good behaviors, they're going to be hard to break as well. So we can numb ourselves in a lot of different ways. And I think it's important to build a space for a little bit of escape from this. I think, if you build in that hour at night, or it's that hour in the morning to kind of escape, however that is for you, through your favorite book, your favorite TV show, I think give yourself that time, but also kind of like screen time with kids, right? Allow yourself, don't be cautious that it doesn't become your whole day, because that is numbing the experience. And I think it's going to make it more difficult in the long run if you're numbing all day long throughout whatever means.
Yeah, that is very true. So what are we seeing on social media? Okay, so I see a lot of great activity and comments and.
Yeah, so if you're just joining us, first off, we apologize for the inconvenience that we're not on our main page as we advertised. We're having some crazy technical difficulties. But thank you for joining us if you are. A lot of what we're hearing is just a lot of empowerment right now in our comments. A lot of people are sharing their thoughts about changing their thought process when they are feeling negative. And we're seeing a lot of stories being shared. We have a viewer who said, sometimes when my thoughts go to dark places, I have to tell myself to just stop and redirect myself and ask myself why I feel this way and when my thoughts are going to those places. So there's a lot of amazing empowerment happening in our chat right now. Not really a lot of questions, but everybody is just loving the message you're sending right now. And this is why we knew these conversations needed to happen, right? We knew that there was a need to have a real talk about this. It's really easy to see people on social media saying things, sharing all kinds of news articles about the pandemic. We turn on a TV and it's every couple hours, right? And it's overwhelming. Our lives are overwhelming enough as is, just as a military spouse without children, with your spouse deployed or your spouse home. Right. It's crazy for us in general, but now we throw this one in. And a lot of military spouses deal with mental health issues. I mean, like Bernice said, both of us are over here like we're not flying because it's not happening anytime soon. And I personally can't even get in my car sometimes and drive because my anxiety is so bad. So all of this in the setting of nobody's really saying that this is hard right now. Everybody else is saying, oh, it's okay. You guys, it'll end soon. Suck it up, move on. This is hard. And it's one of those moments that we know it's going to, end at some point. We know this will work out, but the fear of the unknown is so uncomfortable for us. Even as a military spouse, it's uncomfortable and our whole world's unknown most of the time. We knew that we had to say, let's have a real chat. Let's really break it into the, conversation that I'm not getting out of bed some days or off my couch, or please don't make me put on pants that are not sweatpants because man, they're comfy, right?
I love it. It's so true. And I think the more you step out of your comfort zone and start talking about those uncomfortable things and sharing of yourself, you'd be surprised sharing more of your own stories with fellow spouses, peers. By sharing, it not only helps them, but it really helps you too, because it's getting that piece of you, that vulnerability out, and having someone else, you'd be surprised, sit across from you and say, I've been there as well, and forming that connectedness, right? So one thing I have been trying to talk a lot about in the last couple of weeks is I loathe the term social distancing right now. I think it should be called physical distancing, because we need the social connectiveness now more than ever in our lives. It's not going to be what we're used to. Again, going back to be creative, because our spouses are so intelligent and so creative. So find ways to do it, to make that connection, because I think we need that social connection now more than ever. So go out there and say, we are not socially distancing, we are physically distancing, but if anything, we should walk away socially stronger out of this.
I am an introvert. I am one of those that after I speak to people or go to a conference, I need to go back home and I need to decompress, because it's like that.
It's draining.
Yes, but now that I'm just in my house, it's like, okay, I need to talk to people. I mean, I'm an introvert, but I need to talk to people. I mean, I think that even introverts, we were okay at the beginning because we love to be in our houses and we don't do all the socializing all the time. But I think that now is becoming as, okay, I miss that. I mean, I like to be in my house, but I need that social part in my life. And probably a lot of introverts, at least in my case, I think I'm going to become an extrovert now, because it's like, okay, now I'm missing something I didn't realize I liked in my life. Maybe I always told myself, you're an introvert, you're okay with it, but now I'm missing it. So probably I'll become an extrovert now.
I just miss walking into coffee. Like, I just miss walking into a coffee shop and getting a cup of coffee that is not made at my house, because that's more work some days. And I'm chasing a lot of kids around. I just want to have that moment to go get that hot cup or cold cup, depending on what time of the year it is. And I'm a hot coffee drinker, no matter rain, shine, 200-degree weather. I just miss it.
Yeah, I think it's all just surreal still. I think there's moments that are just so surreal. And I have flashes of it where I'm like, am I really doing this? Am I really standing a mile out from the entrance of the grocery store? And I did read a great article, and I've heard some people speaking about this, and I'm not sure if it's been brought up before with y'all, but just, that it is a grief process, what we're going through. And I love that analogy, because we're kind of grieving that old normal, whatever that normal was for you, going into a coffee shop, being able to go to a gym where people work out and they miss their spin classes, or they miss, some people go to spin classes because they love spinning. Some people go because they love the person sitting next to them, so I think it's all those things that we're kind of grieving what that normal was. And that is a grief process of being angry at moments, right? And being resentful at moments, being sad at moments. But then hopefully, as this is a marathon, we know this is not a sprint, what we're going through, that we're moving into an acceptance and trying to find a little bit of acceptance, not 100%, but a little bit of acceptance of what the new normal is.
I'm talking about that sad and anger and all these feelings, because now it's not something that you can do what you were used to do. We have a great question here, and it says, what's the best advice you can give to spouses of deployed that were in a single digits of reunion and now a to be determined time frame? I mean, you had that you're counting down the days, you're in the single digits, you're like preparing the homecoming, you can wait, and then now, boom, to be determined, we don't know when we're coming back.
Yeah, and I've had a couple friends that are in that situation as well, and it's devastating. So I think part of it is letting yourself feel devastated. Letting yourself say, this sucks. I was on the single digits, or what do we do? Daisy chains. If I was tearing off the daisy chains and I only had 10 left, and now it is unknown. So allowing yourself to say that, and allowing yourself to say that out loud to others and not masking it. I think it's important to feel that frustration, that anger, that resentment, that fear of not knowing. But I think the best part is then trying to find a way, again, that barrier of how do I get past this setback? What do I do? It's asking yourself, what can I do to get past that barrier? What is working for that individual while they have been deployed? What has worked for them? What hasn't? It's kind of finding a reset for them as different survival things you've done during that deployment. Some people pick a weekly or a monthly trip. Well, that's going to be hard right now, right? We can't do that. It's picking a professional goal or a personal goal. So in some way, shape, or form right now, it's having to reset that again and almost say this is another deployment, right? So it's kind of separating the two of saying, I kind of finished that one, although you didn't, but now I got to gear up for another one. And for me, it's shifting instead of this is unknown, this is never going to end. And that thought of this is never going to end, I would encourage them to kind of shift of, okay, I kind of completed that one. I did it. This is a start of a new, what am I going to do to get through this one now? So I would ask that person, what did they do to get through the original deployment? What positive things did they do that helped them, right? And so things that help me might not help you. I like painting walls. People might not like painting walls, but I painted a lot of walls while he was deployed. So go back again and celebrate kind of that I made it through that deployment, what it should have been, right? Yeah. Now I'm devastated that he's not coming, but then reframe it of, okay, now I'm going to take it into another chunk and I'm going to say, this is a new deployment. And now I'm going to start putting those things back into place again to get through the next deployment. I hope that helps.
Yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense. And that advice will be applied in many different situations, like some of the ones that we're seeing from new spouses, the ones that we get to talk to at basic training. Their first disappointment is that they are not able to attend to graduation. The second one, they won't be able to see their spouse, significant other, or fiance before they go to another training installation. And it's going to take even longer probably before they can actually join them after that. So that period of time that they were looking for to see them for 3 days or so before going to another training installation is gone. It's not going to be there. So I think that the advice that you're talking about right now is something that can be actually implemented in many different situations that the spouses are dealing with, from a deployment that now is a to be determined to a you cannot go to a graduation, you're not going to see me for months, and we don't know what's going to happen next.
To PCSing, absolutely.
Yes.
There's just so many different ways that the civilian sector doesn't quite understand the different implications and the ripple effect of this for our military families and communities. And to me, the whole picture is really overwhelming, right? So the whole picture of a deployment is overwhelming. The whole picture of a PCS move is overwhelming. So I am always encouraging individuals to chunk it as much as they can. So I'm taking this homeschooling a week at a time right now, because if I think about the fact that they're probably not going back to school, I'm going to be completely overwhelmed by that. So what I can tell you is I made it through this week. They did some school, they bathed and they ate and they went to bed at a reasonable hour. So I'm winning, right? But I think it's taking it in chunks for everything right now, because I caution anyone to look too much into the big picture, because that really can be completely overwhelming.
Yeah, that is true.
I mean, we're alive, right?
No, and there are so many things and I that we can be grateful for right now. And it's hard when, again, depending on where you're at, right? If today's your angry day, you don't want to hear that, embrace your family, you get more time with your family. You don't want to hear those things because you're kind of angry today. So feel angry today, but then wake up tomorrow and change some of those thoughts to positive of, you know what? we don't have to run around in a million different directions this weekend. We can have a lazy morning and just kind of enjoy each other's company and have a late breakfast. I can sit with my child longer than I normally don't get to. So it's okay to have those days where you don't want to hear all those positive things, because we've all been there. When you do that comparative of it could be so much worse, which it can be, but on those days that you are feeling a little bit better, do tell yourself all those positive things that are coming out of this.
Yeah. And I'm telling you, I have learned that I am not a homeschool parent. I have thought about it off and on. And you know, sometimes, especially as a military spouse, like not knowing what the next 6 months holds for us, and watching my children go through the emotions of my spouse deploying rather frequently. I've considered it. I've thought about it. Yes, Casey, you can do this. You are more than capable of homeschooling them. No, I will not. my hat goes off to any parent who can do it. That is some dedication, and even more respect to some teachers, because my children are a handful on their own. I have learned that I am not capable of homeschooling. I am
It's
not.
It's a whole different level of appreciation, right? For teachers and educators and what they do on a daily basis. And truly here in Texas, what they've done to step up with the e-learning, I've been so impressed with what they put together to support children and the district. And although it is crazy some days, because you know they each of the kids has a Zoom meeting with their teacher, and I have Zoom meetings, and then if my husband's here, he has Zoom meetings, and I think one day all 5 of us were Zooming, and I was like, I should take a picture of this, because it's completely entertaining that we have 5 people on Zoom right now. But homeschooling, Casey, I've had the same fleeting thoughts, and I now know after this, I will never have that thought ever again in my entire life. Like, no, I will pay whatever I need to pay to have them go to school. So.
Yes, that is exactly where I'm at with it. And I read somewhere there's a difference between actual homeschooling and crisis schooling, and we're in a crisis. We're in a state.
Good delineation. No, that really is.
But at the same time, how many of us have at least got on an internet browser and typed in homeschooling and insert state here at some point, right? Something has come up and we've all considered it. We've looked at the school districts when we've moved. We've, had the thought, we've done the thing. I don't care if you're in a crisis or not. This is hard. Like,
and there are some military spouses, they do this and they make it seem so easy, and they homeschool their kids, like not just 1 or 2 or maybe 3 and all the way to high school. And it's like, oh, cool. It looks pretty easy. Then probably I can do it. I mean, like you said earlier, oh my goodness, there's some pretty spouses, they have talent to be able to do that the way with the homeschooling.
However, when you do walk away from this, when we do walk away, know that you are capable of doing it as well.
Because we'll survive this.
Yeah, you are capable. Your kids are going to be just fine, and they're going to go to the next grade. So I think it's a little bit of a pat on the back for all those parents at home doing the homeschooling and juggling, and they're working just as hard. So you are capable and doing amazing things, truly, with what's being asked of us as well.
Yeah, it is very true.
It's amazing to see the different things we are capable of doing when we have no option.
Right.
We have no option right now. We are stuck at home. We're planning meals for at least 2 weeks, most of the time, more than that. We're rationing our coffee and our toilet paper. We're taking care of business at home. We've got, spouses who are working remote. We've got spouses who are continuing their education online for the first time ever. There's so many things that we're doing right now because we have no choice, that when we do go back to normal, our normal is going to be a lot more complicated than this is going to be now for us, because we're going to be so used to this.
Yeah. But isn't that the definition of a military spouse, is having to do things and be in situations that we're uncomfortable all the time? I mean, that is the definition of what we do. We move to a new place, and we, have to find a way to make it work in uncomfortable situations. So I I think we're doing amazing as military spouses. And to me, I don't have any research or data on this, but I would say that military spouses are probably adjusting a little bit faster to this new normal, just
having
because.
to do things and be in situations that were
Yeah,
uncomfortable.
I agree. I think we probably are adjusting quicker. I think we have to be adjusting quicker, right?
Yes.
I mean, the best part of all of this is the resources that we all get to highlight now, right? Our new spouses take a survey. It's how they get paired with a mentor, and we know the younger generation is being, rushed into this new crazy with all of these restrictions on us that aren't normally here. But we also know that on the upwards of 50% of new spouses don't even know what resources are available.
That's so
And
true.
now our resources are even more limited because everything is shut down. But there are so many resources that are available to us in virtual settings, like right here, that we're able to really kind of help guide each other too. Just like some MFLACs are doing virtual sessions now. A lot of people didn't know TRICARE covers telemental health, and
Yes.
they do.
Yes.
There's so many good things that are coming from this at the same time that when we look back, we're going to be like, oh, hey, guess what I learned during this? I learned about X, Y, and Z resources. And these people were my tribe at this point in my fam. So I think now it sucks.
It does. It does. It's hard. It's super hard. And I think we all need to tell ourselves that it's okay to say it's hard.
Yeah. But as a military spouse, it's one more season, right?
It is one more cycle around that life cycle. It so is. And now like we'll have a similar cycle when we all talk about the COVID-19 cycle that we went through, but it is, and you will all come out from it. And it'll look a little bit different on all of us because based upon how we weathered the storm. I mean, it's true, but it will get better.
It has to.
Yeah, and it will. And we told Dr. Lowe at the beginning, before we went live, we told her, we're so excited and everything, and kind of like what happened last week. Man, it's time's up, and we feel like there's still. This is the point of these sessions. We want it to be a conversation. We wanted to be able to address how we feel and share, and also educate at the same time. So this hour goes by fast because it is a truly conversation. And now we have someone that is educating us and giving us advice, and is even mentoring us at the moment with things that probably we're not seeing at the moment. So right now, Casey is we're going to pick only 3 winners because we are in the group. And so that we are fair to the people that are watching us in the page, we're going to do 3 books here in the group and pick 2 names from the page, so that way we can give away the 5 books. But now I want to open this to you, Dr. Lowe. What is it that you wanted? What kind of message do you want military spouses to keep in mind, to always remember, with not just what was happening with COVID-19, but just being a military spouse?
And it's one of the chapters that I talk about is be the hero of your own story. Meaning you are capable of so much and you don't even know what you're capable of. But there's no comparison. It's not you against any other spouse. You're there to lift each other up, and you're there to be the best person, to be the best you that you can be, and finding a way to be that person. It's not a clean path. It's a journey, and there's a lot of bumps in the roads, but I guarantee you, if you work at it and you make a conscious choice to work at it, you can have better social and emotional health.
I love that. Very, very true. Casey, you want to say something before we go?
No, I'm just over here, fangirling just a little bit because I absolutely love your book. I love everything that you're doing. I love the awareness that you're bringing to the stress level that we do go through as military spouses. Like I said, I'm a little fangirly over here.
You guys are, I just, so honestly, just so thrilled to be here tonight. Anything else I can do to support you please go ahead and pick 5 tonight, and then pick a couple extra because I'll donate 5 books as well.
Oh, thank you. That's awesome. Thank you,
Amazing.
Doctor. Thank you so much. Yeah, we will go ahead and do that. This is going to be one of those conversations that we're going to need part 2.
Mhm.
We're going to have to come back and in a month we're still in this situation. Probably the conversation is going to have to be more intense. In a month from now, things are going back into normal. I mean, we have to get ourselves ready for that because
Yes.
we're going to be so used to this. Then now opening the doors to go outside and go back to normal is going to be like, okay, what do I do now? So we do want to extend the invitation right now for
Absolutely.
be determined to come back, have a part 2, and now look into this in a different perspective. If we're still in it, what's coming next, and if we're on our way out, how to make it through it.
Absolutely, I'd love to.
That's wonderful. Sounds good. Do you have the names, Casey? She's like, I'm almost there.
I was trying to find the mute button, and I'm telling you guys, I got so excited when you said to do our 5 tonight, and then you're going to donate some more. I got really excited because I really feel like this is something all military spouses need to read.
It's a great book.
And
I'm working on it, Casey. I'm trying to get it out to Airmen and Family Readiness Centers. So I really am trying to get it out. It's there's a lot of red tape associated with it, but I'll keep beating down doors.
Yeah, but you know what? One powerful, strong influence that we have as military spouses. If you read this book, it's gonna change your life. So go ahead and talk to people in your installation. Go ahead and tell them how it changed your lives. Go ahead and tell them why you need it. Help us spread the word. And that's one of the things that we're trying to do here. I mean, it's not just a regular book that you're going to read. It's a book that you're going to learn from, that is going to inspire, that is going to empower. So after you read this and you want to share the message, go ahead and help us out. Go to the, there's a Facebook page for the book, and share your comments. Go ahead and share what you learned from it. But go also to your installation. You know, you can even have like a group after all of this is over. You can even have a virtual group and talk about this. I know here in San Antonio, they're doing something like that. So go ahead and start doing that. I mean, it's one of those great things that we want spouses to know is available. It is a powerful tool, and you learn from it. So we're gonna help you, Doctor, as much as we can, to tell people that it's out there, that they're going to learn from it. And if we can help you to bring this to other places, we will definitely do that.
yeah,
I greatly appreciate you guys. I really do. And I'm just so blessed to have met you, you both.
That's awesome. Yes.
game changers. I love it. This is my favorite part. So, like we said a little bit ago, we know we've had some technical difficulties. We really appreciate everybody who has joined us tonight. We know we've kind of created a lot of hype around it, and with meaning. As soon as we're finished, I will make sure this is on our actual Facebook page. So you can hear Dr. Lowe talk again, which, I mean, the voice of, reason in the stress. But we'll come back tomorrow and pick some additional winners after the chat has ran on our page. So without further,
and the video is going to be on YouTube and our YouTube channel as well. So it will always be there. You can go back and use the video as a reference. So it's not going away. It will be there.
and if you really want to, you can stream us live on Spotify, also on MSA and Fam podcast, where this will hit this evening too.
Yes.
Look at you guys.
Yeah, it will be all over the place. Yeah.
We'll be
Yeah. So, Doctor, thank you so much for being here with us tonight. Thank you for accepting the invitation to bring you back and talk about not the part 2, the what's next. Thank you, Casey. It's always amazing to have these chats. And like we said at the beginning, the reason why we're doing this is because we want to have real conversations, real answers, be able to have a place where we can show how we truly feel. This is a safe place where we're not just here to share with you how we're dealing with all of this, but also to link you to resources, to provide you mentorship and support. So we're going to have the link for the mentorship, for the mentor, for the survey, for everything in the chat. so that you can get a hold of us. But we're here for you. You're not alone. We're all in this together. We're gonna come out of this even stronger. But in the meantime, make sure that you take care of yourself. And next week, we'll be here next Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. Central. And these chats are just getting better and better. So just stay tuned, because tomorrow we will announce what we're having next Thursday. And we hope that you will join us. Thank you so much, Casey. Thank you so much, Doctor. And thank you everybody for joining us.
Do
Stay
you want me
safe.
to give these books away? Do you want to give away these live books before we end it?
Oh yeah, let's do it. I'm sorry.
I'm like, wait, are we giving books away?
We're not done yet. Yes, go for it.
I got it. It's okay. So, I mean, V's all excited because we're gonna have another chat. That's exactly what just happened, which is awesome. So, I put them all into a little fancy website that randomized picks everything. We do have 2 different watch parties happening right now. I have compiled names from both watch parties. So thank you guys again for joining us tonight. We have 5 winners. And if I mispronounce your name, I apologize in advance. I will tag you guys all in a post, I promise. So you'll know exactly who I am talking to. I am horrible with names, I'm just saying. So 5 winners. So you guys ready? We have Jenna Levin. Yay. We have Aaron Alexis. Our own Julie
Oh,
Eshel.
she's saying yeah.
Our own Julie. We have Cindy. Cindy, I'm not butchering your last name, but I know your email address. And then we have, and I'm gonna mess this up, I'm going to assume it is Yvonne Haley on our main page in our watch party right there. So like I said, I will tag everybody, I promise. And then we're gonna get 5 more away tomorrow when we have it on our main page. So
Awesome.
yay. Yeah, I love giving.
Sounds good. All right. Thank you so much, everybody. Once again, thank you so much, Doctor. It was a blast, and thank you for all the knowledge.
Have a wonderful evening. Stay safe, guys. All right.
Yeah, you too. Thank you so much. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Guys.